welcome to Living Grounded, Village Church's weekly podcast. I'm Ella, this is Tim.
Hello.
Each episode we answer one of your questions about how we can continue living grounded in Christ. Today's question came through our website. It's, are there demons amongst us? And if so, how does that look in our lives?
Just one question these days.
One question.
One question.
Doing things a bit differently.
There you go. New season.
Yeah.
So demons. Yeah. Ella. Any experience? What do you reckon? You feel like you had some brush with a demon?
Yeah, I think so. Like one particular moment stands out to me. I feel like lots of people have had sleep paralysis before. And lots of people, like, obviously it's a common phenomenon and we don't really understand why it happens. But a lot of people experience some sort of
it's pretty freaky.
demonic sort of, like they think they're seeing a demon. Anyway, that's what happened to me. And I had it before, but this one particular time felt different from the rest. And it was, terrifying, I would say. Basically, I was sleeping in a room with like 5 other girls at the time. And I woke up in the middle of the night, felt like wide awake. It felt completely real. And I could move. I like got up to go to the bathroom. And as I came back to bed and like lied down in bed, I heard a knock on the door. And I like sort of like peeked behind my covers. I thought I'll just ignore it. It's probably the girl next door. But the door slowly opened and I saw this like huge figure in the doorway, and it spoke to me and it sounded like a family member. And I was like, that is not that person. Like, what is this? Yeah. And I guess I knew, I don't know, in the moment, it felt pretty obvious. It felt demonic. Yeah, it's an interesting one. You know, felt the other common thing of like feeling pressure on your body and you can't move. Yeah. And so I cried out to Jesus, and then the next thing I remembered was waking up and it had stopped. But yeah, it felt like an eye opener to me, I think, of realizing like this is real. Obviously, we talk a lot about spirits and demons, and we read a lot in the Bible about it. And I mean, on Sunday we read a couple stories where Jesus cast out a demon. We kicked off our new series, or part 3 of our series in Matthew. But yeah, that experience helped, I guess, solidify for me. What we saw on Sunday too was that Jesus has authority and power over the physical and the unseen world. And so that was like comforting. For me. What about you?
You were in Byron Bay at the time, right? Yeah, okay. That's interesting too.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know. There's things that I go back and I think, put it this way, there's moments I've had both as a pastor but also, before being a pastor, that I look back and I would say this: I wouldn't be surprised if when in the new creation I get to ask someone in the know and they go to me, oh yeah,
that was a demon.
So if that happens, I wouldn't be heaps surprised, but at the same time, I don't feel so confident that I could go, that was definitely it. I don't think I've had experience. Like, I've heard some pastors, and, I'm talking like very kind of spiritually conservative pastors who've described an experience, for instance, someone who is speaking with a very strange voice, saying blasphemous things, things that are wrong about God and so on. But then that, either they've prayed or they've opened the Bible and started preaching the gospel or something like that, and something has profoundly changed. I haven't had an experience like that. What about other ones that make me go, I wonder? Yeah. But yeah, so I guess, of course, like you alluded to, this question's kind of come out of Sunday's sermon to a certain extent, Matthew 8. You get a bizarre moment at the end of Matthew 8 where Jesus encounters two demons, and they ask him if, they declare that we know who you are, the Son of God, what do you want with us, this sort of thing. And then they ask him, can you, don't cast us out into the void, essentially. Would you, Jesus casts them into a herd of pigs. It's very strange.
So random.
Yeah. Now, what's going on there? I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I think there's some kind of very cultural things going on that are very alien to us. The fact that they're into pigs are unclean animals. There's a connection there. Should the pigs have even been, it's a very Gentile area, but again, it's kind of this, pigs are an unclean animal, Jewishly speaking. Should they have kind of been there? Is it this kind of double judgment, a judgment on the demons, but also a judgment on unclean things in general? Not 100% sure. But yeah, it raises a question. And not surprising, it's raised a question for the person asking this question. Demons today, demon possession. How do you know? How do you know if something's demonic? How do you have any confidence? A lot of commentators would say of the Bible, look, this is just their kind of way, the ancient way of describing what today we would call mental health issues, medical conditions. Yeah.
They thought, or they might have thought someone with schizophrenia or epilepsy.
Yeah.
A demon.
Yeah. They obviously didn't have modern medical categories as well as testing procedures and all that. And so they applied these things to the framework of their thinking. Now, for some, pagan things, it's like, they've got too much fire in their body or not enough water or something along those lines. They're imbalanced, there's an imbalance in their properties or something like that. But for those who believed in a supernatural world, and certainly the Jews did, and who believe in a force of evil and a force of good, well, it's natural that these would be called demonic possession. But that's, modern medical thinking looking back into these stories. The question I think we need to ask ourselves is, are they right? Is this just an ancient way of describing a common medical condition of what we would call now today depression, schizophrenia, any of these sort of things? Or is there certainly something bigger going on? Let's start with this though. I think we need to recognize that there is something special going on in Jesus' ministry. We aren't supposed to read the gospel accounts as kind of everyday normal. So there is the idea is that there's essentially kind of a ramping up of demonic activity, just as the same as there's a ramping up of healing ministry and all this sort of stuff. Again, I think people have made a mistake when they think that should be normal everyday life for people to be getting healed and being raised from the dead and all this sort of thing. No, this is all built up around the ministry of Jesus, that something cataclysmic, something massive is happening right now. And so, of course, there would be, just in, little illustration, just like when there's a big earthquake or something about to happen, animals sometimes have a sense of these things and, crazy stuff starts to happen. For the evil forces of the world, for the demons, this is kind of the moment of win or lose, and so it's not surprising that lots of crazy things are starting to happen. When King Charles came to visit Australia, lots of things started happening around the monarchy. Lots of people started protesting, all this sort of stuff. It's kind of like that. So this isn't normal. Now, why does God allow that to happen is, I think, a question that kind of permeates this question at the same time. What does God allow anything like that? And I think the answer is it's a little bit like Jesus' encounter with a blind man, and the disciples ask, what happened? Did his family sin that he was born blind and so on? This is John chapter 9 if you want to look it up. But Jesus says it wasn't because his parents sinned. It wasn't because he's cursed by God. It's actually, this is so that God's work might be revealed, so that God might be glorified in Jesus, so that Jesus might be, the exact word is, this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. And so, why so much demonic activity in the Gospels? Well, it's so that Jesus can show who he is. It's so that Jesus can show his authority over demons and evil forces and so on. So I think, so be very careful when you read Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, and to an extent Acts as well, although it is interesting, it does seem to taper off a little bit in Acts. We shouldn't see the amount of demon possession and so on as necessarily normative. Okay, it's particular. However, I think the Bible does say that there continue to be demonic spirits amongst us. Certainly, Satan, the kind of primeval demonic spirit, one place he's called the Prince of Demons, not by Jesus, but by the Pharisees, and he's not. That's not necessarily. Jesus doesn't say no. There's not that. So I think that's not a bad title. Satan remains active. Peter can say that he's prowling around like a roaring lion looking for people to devour. That's his purpose. He is against you. He's against Christ. And so are his co-workers, the demons, if you like. And if you look at the New Testament after the Gospels and Acts, you actually only get 2 direct references. You get some indirect ones, but you get 2 direct references to demons. And this is interesting. 1 Corinthians 10 verse 20, demons are the idols or false gods that pagans sacrifice to. So don't eat of stuff that's been sacrificed. Don't partake with people that have things that have been sacrificed to demons. So that's interesting. Could, here's a thought, could Buddha, could Muhammad, could Joseph Smith or Confucius have been demon-possessed in order to lead people astray? Yeah. 1 Timothy 4:1 says something similar, but with a different edge to it. This is 1 Timothy 4. The Spirit clearly says that in later times, some will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. So could demons be at work in false teachers who cause people to abandon following Jesus? That's a bit different to how we normally think of demonic activity. We're looking for the raving lunatic, you know what I mean? We're looking for the foaming at the mouth. We're looking for crazy stuff like that. But let me ask you, what would be more effective from Satan's point of view? Would it be to, just keep some people possessed in chains, all this sort of stuff? Or would it be to lead millions astray through false teaching or false idols? I think the answer is pretty clear. Unfortunately, Satan isn't a fool. So, I think that's probably what he does. But I think that still leaves us with the thought of mental health issues today, depression, addictions, clinical anxieties, fears. Could they still be demonic activity? And my answer is I don't know. In some cases they could be. I'm not closed to the fact that some might be. Medical community won't like that answer. Would probably say that answer is somewhat irresponsible. Now, I think I'll come to that in a little bit, but I think as well we just need to go, they can't say it's not. You can't test for demon. It doesn't show up on your bloods. It doesn't show up in urine. It doesn't show up in, in the normal medical ways. So how can they say it's not? I guess is the point. But does that mean that we shouldn't treat people medically? And my answer is no. I don't think we should be irresponsible in that way. I think it would be wrong to go, this is definitely a demon. Don't take any medicine. No, I don't think you can be so confident as that. If there are medical remedies, then we should use those within reason, of course. But let's not give in to sometimes the arrogance of science and the medical profession. Not everything is being cured by medicine or even by holistic health, exercise, good sleep, food, so on. There does seem to be some things that just can't be explained through the scientific paradigm, that just resist kind of medical treatment and so on. And why not? Why couldn't that be some form of spiritual demonic activity? So my answer is yes, I think there is reason to think that there remains demonic activity. Certainly the Bible doesn't give us any reason to say that there is none, that there would be none. going on right now. But I also think it's probably rarer than we think, and that it's hard to know it for sure in any particular circumstances. The best we can say is, oh, could be, I reckon, most of the time. But what should we do if we think we are encountering someone that there's some sort of demonic activity going on? You described an experience. I think all of this. I think let's go down those two routes. Let's go where you feel like you're experiencing something along those lines, and let's go where you think someone else is experiencing something along those lines. I think in regards to someone else, I think we should still encourage them to seek some sort of medical help because it might not be a demon. But I think we also should pray. I think we pray in case it is. We ask God that God would free them from that. We ask and encourage them to pray that God would do the same, just in case it is. Be wise there, be very careful. It's a tricky thing to say to someone, hey, you might have a demon. But there might be a space for that at some point. I think no matter what, and I think this is the case if you think you're experiencing something of some sort of demonic activity or someone else is, God is infinitely more powerful than any force of evil, Satan, or deceiving spirit, or whatever you want to call it. Jesus has triumphed over every spiritual force at the cross. They gave him their best shot, and he turned it into his most glorious victory. So just remember that. They will not overcome Christ. They will not overcome Christ in you. Their destiny is the lake of fire. But for this moment, in some ways that we can't always know, and for sometimes some reasons that we can't always fully comprehend, God allows them to have a little bit of leash, But even that is for the sake of his glory, as his people reject false teachers and idolatry, as they turn from worshipping demons and turn themselves to trusting in his Son, God will be glorified in the midst of all that by his mercy and by our faith in him. So keep holding on to that. Remember that he is more powerful, so therefore turn to him. Turn to him for yourself, for others, wherever you might fear this sort of thing's going on. Yep.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Tim. Thanks for listening. Keep sending in questions in. You can send them to the Village phone or even to Instagram. And if you want to stay anonymous, you can send them through to our website. Is there anything coming up this week we should know about?
Look, we're just going to continue in Matthew chapter 9, looking more at what it means to be a follower of Jesus. And biggest encouragement I think at the moment is we're really looking forward to church camp. We think it's going to be a great weekend, an encouraging weekend, a great time to come together. And we just need to keep encouraging people to register because we don't want you to miss out. And we also asking you to love the organisers by helping them so we can manage catering, accommodation, all these sorts of things. So how do you register?
Go to the app, probably the easiest place. The event is in the app and that'll take you to the website. You can also pay a deposit of the Backup Church this Sunday and register that way.
Yep.
Yeah. So we hope to see you there. Have a great week and we'll see you Sunday.
See you Sunday. Ciao.